council. And the first item will be adoption of the agenda. Look at it and make a motion when you're ready.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
All right, all in favor? All right, thank you. Order of business. 3A, consider approval of submission of a building reuse grant application for Project Husky 2 and authorize town manager to sign and execute all grant paperwork. Jordan, you got anything?
Yes, so, Synergy came to Hildebran in 2019. They did successfully fulfill their, for the first building reuse grant. The company currently has 72 full-time employees. With the next grant, Synergy Labs plans to spend nearly $2.8 million to renovate approximately 20,000 square feet of space in order to free up the manufacturing area. Company plans to hire 60 new full-time employees by the end of 2022. The average annual wage will be $44,300. So now they're requesting up to an additional $500,000 in the building reuse grant. We would be required to match 5% of it. We're splitting that 5% match with the county, so it's $12,500 max for each, the county and Hildebran. And we would need your approval to submit that application as the applicant for the project.
Sounds like a good idea. Sounds like a good deal.
I would recommend it, yes.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, all in favor? All right, thank you.
And that's also authorizing the town manager to sign and execute all paperwork.
And then it's to authorize the town manager to sign the paperwork.
Thank you. All right, review progress on town renovation. Logan, you got anything?
Do we want to take a recess until Rodney gets here, just in case, since we're talking about contractual stuff?
I would be more comfortable if it would make the council more comfortable.
I think just to make sure the council has the proper guidance with the contract, it would make sense.
How long might it be?
I don't,
Tune into Honey Springs and see.
That's a good idea. See where he's at.
See where they're to now.
let me see if I can find out anything.
Logan, do you have any pictures or videos or anything that you were gonna show?
I do. I took some brief pictures and videos just of the things in the contract that have been fulfilled. We can show that to council. I can bring that up to you on the laptop at this
I mean,
point.
that may take some time, at least that part's out of the way.
Okay. And we can send this out too if the public wants to see it. All right, but I can begin reviewing it. Okay. We'll start. Let me roll it down. How about that there? That way. That's fine. There you go.
Yeah, we'll do it right here.
I won't be-
Cole. Tamara said they're wrapping up.
They are wrapping up. By the time we do this, it should take care of it.
Is that when the preacher says, and in conclusion?
Yeah, and then it's 30 minutes later.
I guess the question is, how fast is Red drive?
Pretty fast.
Derek, you know, the same congregation.
Who?
Congregation.
We received an email that he would not be attending.
Let them move, let them move.
Same with Mackie.
Preacher, let them move.
Same with Mackie.
All in the sermon said, congregation, the church needs to walk. Congregation yelled out, let them walk, let them walk. One a little bit goes, a little bit further. Derek said, congregation, this church needs to run, it's gonna take money. Congregation guy said, let them walk, let them walk.
All right, I've heard that joke.
Do what? Yeah, go ahead.
You need to send you another
Yeah.
Hopefully we won't be here then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here is the one thing. Concrete wall was installed, again, that was installed about it. And it's already begun work before they notified us of it. Anything above 6 inches, we understand what ADA has to have railing on it. And on the back side, it does come up to the dirt. And on this side, its highest part is 15 inches. Halfway down, it's about 12, a little over halfway, it's about 9 inches. These are the doors that they should have removed as part of the contract. Here is the base of the interior, the back wall through the South Center Street. We'd asked them to remove the nails. Again, this is for the building occupancy part. I felt for county inspections, this would be something that would work in, but there's at least 4 nails at the bottom there. Throughout the interior part, it is locked up by the doors right now. More nails. When you get to the outside portion, this is one of the sides of it that should have been removed back flush. Again, that's left jagged. What they were supposed to do in the contract was remove any loose brick and then remortar that back into place after making it flush. Here you can see they just put in mortar over top of the loose brick. Here's another picture of the jagged edges sticking out, not flush. Same thing higher up. Here's a video of just some of the loose brick. I'll show this. So that's just one of the bases. Loose brick. This is at the base. Again, this was to break up water, but again, it's loose brick. It wasn't placed. It was merely set. So again, these, if they were going to do this again, this should have been, concrete bin, buried, something along those lines, to keep it from being a hazard and issue all the time. Next, loose mortar. So this is around the metal gated entrance on the side, and you can see through it. There's some cracks already existing. Concrete is breaking off. Video is plaster. There's three videos. We won't all the way through, but just showing that it's peeling off. They were supposed to remove this on the interior. More loose mortar and plaster on the interior portion. It's currently locked. Just coming off. Yeah, it just keeps going on. More loose plaster. This is on the concrete wall. It was signed. Again, that's not something you typically see. Not something we would want to keep there. It does look like it's been scratched since. That's not later.
Look like he tried to grind it back off.
Yeah. All right, I'll review it again now. Okay, same thing with you all.
I'll come up there.
I'm sorry, Dan.
Ben's gonna save my hand, they can do it, right?
You're over hiding, Ben.
That's right.
Okay, so this is the top of the concrete wall. Anything again above 6 inches should have railing. The other issue with this is it was not part of the contract. We discussed what was in the contract, got it approved. This was something they added in after the fact. They did provide it as a courtesy change order, they paid for it. But again, it's not something the town approved. By the time they let you know about it, they'd already started. The other issue is it's not ADA. Again, it should have ramps anywhere 6 inches or above, and it doesn't. These are the doors that should have been removed as part of the work. That's in the contract. Here on the interior portion of the tower, behind the doors, far back, you'll see nails all throughout the bottom, lining it from the start to the finish. Then you see more nails sticking out here throughout it, more nails. Getting to the jagged portion, again, anything 32 inches above grade at the top of the tower was supposed to be removed back flush, flat. Any loose brick was supposed to be removed and was back in place. As you can see here, instead of removing the brick, flushing it back, they just put mortar mix over the top of it. Again, that was not what was written in the contract. They were supposed to remove mortar back. More jagged pieces from the bottom view and the top of the view. Here's the video. So here is where some of the loose brick again was supposed to be pulled out, reviewed. But back in, you can just see it. We use pieces of it coming out. It's like actually again. Removed and remortared. This was the portion. Again, if they were going to do this, I think it was intentional for the water coming down, but it should have been put into place, either buried. Another method used, but essentially they just laid brick on dirt. And again, I don't know if that was intentional, long-term, short-term. But yeah, it's just, it all comes up. This is around the gated entrance on the side. This is new mortar. You can tell it's kind of solid different color. You can see cracks already starting in it. And it goes around the whole side of it. You can see the cracks up here. This is the interior plastic that should have been removed.
It should be on the ground out there, right?
This is actually the open portion.
That water's just gonna puddle right there. If you do anything out there, water.
Basically, what we have in the contract is all of this loose and then straight back to the but it is like that the whole way through. It gets even worse the higher up you get.
That's what's going to do.
There's mortar, breaking loose, not repaired. This is on the interior portion. Coming loose. It just breaks off.
Mm-hmm. Some. No. No.
That's more interior plastic, you can see it, and then this is the signature they put into the concrete. Those are all.
Goes under, I think, yeah.
Anyway, just for your knowledge, in case you haven't seen it, I've been out to it, we found more loose bricks.
It's not a culvert.
If anybody does anybody in the audience want to see it?
We're already past that.
We don't have to see it.
We're gonna wait on it.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Looks good that way.
All right, bye.
So, here,
Was that ribbon?
He's on it, he's in the car, just past the knob.
That's the knob.
So-
Okay, turn the speed.
this is the concrete wall they poured. Again, this was not part of the contractual agreement. The issue with it is anything above 6 inches down here is supposed to have handrailings throughout it for ADA purposes. It's all the way up to 15. Middle portion is about 9. So all of that should have handrailing.
Wait, Braden's not gonna be here anytime soon.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it's
She's in the parking lot, is that right? Doors were supposed to be removed. They should be there. These are nails on the interior portion and the bottom portion. But there's coming up the side, that's about 2.5 feet up, 3 feet up. There's more nails sitting out. We'd ask them to remove those. Should be flush flat on the sides. You can see this is new mortar that's been put into it. All of this should have been flat. Any loose brick should have been pulled out, remortared back to place. Instead, what they did is just put the mortar base over the top of it. Minor corbelling was still corbelling. This is higher up. Same thing should have been done. Yeah, this is one of the back portions of the corbelling. So again, any loose brick, remove it, put it back in, remove the corbelling. You can break down.
Yes.
This, not necessarily defined in the contract, but from what we understand, they put this down, looks like temporarily, to break up the water coming out so it's flush, but if they were gonna do this, it should have been installed somewhere.
Where's that at?
So the back of it,
Back, I see that.
they installed,
Sorry.
yeah.
Down.
But it,
All that's gonna do is cause water puddling up right behind it.
Yeah, I see the downspout before, it's reason like a water.
so they leave it like that, so what's gonna be the future behind that grass?
We don't know who they will talk to us now. But anyway, yeah, so this here, this is the gated portion at the top. They mortared all this in, we'll see cracks around it as we get through it, but it's already started cracking. So I think we'll all look, but no, we don't. Interior plaster is all supposed to be removed. And again, it's just,
Is that below like 8 feet?
below 8 feet.
Right.
Yeah, this is the bottom, that's the
Cause
bottom.
all that's actually gonna have door rock over top of it. That's where the tiles are gonna be stuck to the door rock,
Well, and
no matter what he.
I did mention to him that it would be impossible for HHGA, and again, you guys raised $25,000.
So we have an interest too, that's the reason I want to see the pictures, and I appreciate that.
Well, and it's, if you were to, yeah, it's just all coming out. But again, I did express to the architect that, it would be impossible for the nonprofit to stick these tiles to this, and we were told that that was up to the nonprofit to figure out.
I'm coming up now, thanks.
Again, more interior wood, mortar and plaster. Again, I'm not sure how this is even one past the county building code, number two past our contract.
Got you. I got you.
Yeah, it just.
No, you're right.
Same thing, if you wanna watch it all the way through.
No, I see what you're saying. All this is gotta come off.
Yeah.
But we didn't say.
So all the stuff that's in the contract, it hasn't been done. All of the contract hasn't been fulfilled, he didn't do it, the other one, they, job.
And then they signed.
What do you think?
A couple things wrong with the concrete wall, and it wasn't built in the second wall, it wasn't part of the contract, or it wasn't approved by the town.
And the rules,
They just
you don't
issued
wanna
it,
talk
they
about
put it in,
that.
and they did.
What's the ADA? Nothing explained?
So anything above, now technically on this side, you do have a slope, I'm not sure how, I don't know if this qualifies, but I do know on the other side that anything 6 inches or higher has to have railing on that side of it. So again, you just can't sign it.
I got
you.
They gotta have something to stop the curb there to stop the wheelchair from running onto the ground.
Basically,
I got you.
but anyway, those are the pictures that we get from the county. So there's that actually the last time. So make sure.
No, you're 100% right.
Okay.
Well, we didn't know, this all goes in good faith to the people, you know what I mean?
Yes.
We needed to see that, thank you.
No, you're 100% right.
Is the attorney close?
He's on the road. He should be here any minute.
Okay, so are we,
We can just, Ben, I think, stepped out for just a minute. I'm okay with that recess until the area minute. If we need to do a motion for that.
He said, like, it's wonderful.
I'm not saying that much.
I don't know, we were, Mike, I used to.
Good being here.
Elijah, can I ask a question?
About 8 years ago, 8, 9 years
What
ago, I
is
was
they
with you, I
saying?
did both.
I mean, are they through with what they're saying, or they, not to be nosy, but
no, it's public record. I told them, I sent them an email on June 8th. And I asked them what was coming up on June 11th. They were supposed to,
Well,
that was their
I'll tell you what,
substantial.
this does wonders down the road.
So I emailed them on June 8th to see how, because I didn't think they were going. So I was asking them, I basically wanted to know So I asked him, how close they were to being finished.
How's Gary doing?
haven't talked
The
to
other
him
thing that's
lately.
concerning is how
I know we had an appointment, that Friday after our last meeting. So I
Is he scheduled for coming back? Or just have to wait and see?
need to follow up. I know he has been working out here. In his office, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Really?
I get birds, I throw a piece of peppermint candy,
Thank you, Francis.
or have a buy bag of Tootsie Pops. I've eat them to chew on the stick. But it works. I've been in the store before, before I quit. I've been in the store before, trying to listen to something about buying 3 more fireworks in the store. That's it, sir, you can do it.
There he is.
You mentioned it, Mike, that's all you
No,
have
I'm
to
in
do.
my anyway, I'm that big. I'm that big, honey. Oh, mine's much bigger, Lord. At least I'm honest.
I might get it started back, Al, so see you.
You just hit the button.
Better seen than me.
You might have to do it twice.
All right, we're opening the meeting back up. We need a motion. Open the meeting back up. Okay.
I'll push it. I'm afraid if I do it more, I can start. Do it like that, it works every time.
Raven, we've already done the reuse grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Alan, I put that on that earlier tonight. That's the one synergy.
Yes. Yep.
So where we want to be in with it. Redmond, basically what we've done before you got here is I took some pictures and videos out of the tower earlier today to show council the progress that Hybrid Architecture and Well Builders have done. At this point, we had asked them to come here tonight to kind of address some of these things. I think their concern was they would rather, they called the mayor and asked if we could meet maybe with the council members at the site one-on-one to look it over. That's not the route, that we wanted to take,
You know
obviously.
how my feelings are about that, we discussed that.
Yeah, so
I
again,
think it would have been better to talk personally than call the public meeting.
well, and again, so staff, we have to abide by any
Open
council.
meetings law.
Yeah.
We're all very serious about that open meeting law as a result of the litigation that was promoted 4 or 5 years ago. We don't want to end up in the town in the same situation where the allegations were made last time that we were violating open meetings law. And we all realize that as town officials, we have certain responsibility and a duty of fidelity and absolute loyalty to the town, so we can't do things like that. And it stirred up a lot of controversy last time, and we'll make absolutely certain that does not happen this time.
So with that, I did present, a few of the videos showing the deficiencies in the contractual agreement that Well Builders and Hybrid Architecture has not met yet. Again, so on June 8th, I did email Maggie Johnson asking where they were at with the renovations. He expressed to me at that point that they were finished. So there were some obvious things that aren't finished, and we can go over those. I did send these out to Mackie with one of the contract attachments, detailing, defining what was expected, and where the deficiencies were. With that, there was supposed to be any loose interior plaster was to be removed. Now, what I showed council, that's not been finished. The existing doors should be removed and provided back to the town where it says the owner for future use. That didn't happen. The projected tower brick wall projections from 32 inches above grade to the top of the existing wall. The existing four-wing projections shall be removed back flush with existing vertical wall. Any or all loose brick shall be removed and remortared back into place. The issue with that is, and I showed this to the council, and the visitors, that instead of removing that and remortaring it back in, one, they did not make it flush, so it is still jagged. That's one issue. And then the second issue is it appears that the loose brick was not pulled back and remortared. It appears that they just placed mortar over the existing loose brick. The other issue is that it's already started to crack in spots. So again, I did explain that to the architect, and they were invited here tonight to address council again, because it is past the date of substantial completion. So they should have been finished June 11th. But to them, they are finished. That's what I've been told.
Well, so you mentioned on June the 8th, they said that they were finished. And then and I actually went and looked at the tower on the 8th, but then last Tuesday, we went back and there had been work that had been done in between. So even though they said they were done on June 8th, they still did more work.
Correct. And what was supposed to happen is we met on June 8th. I expressed to him that I would get with council. I would review the contract. I would get with the county. I would look into, what was going on with it, and then report back to him any deficiencies by that next Wednesday. However, like you said, before we could do that, we went back out and certain things had already been done. A whole list of that I don't have right now, but I do know they had removed. I'd expressed to them during our walkthrough that there were a lot of jagged brick that hadn't been addressed. Some of that jagged brick had been removed before I could send out the letter. Some of the nails have been removed, but again, not all of them. And then none of the plaster or doors have been touched, or the vertical portal brick. After being invited to this meeting, I've not heard from them outside of them saying that they should not attend.
So after additional work was done, after they said they were complete, and then you did send an email which included this information on Thursday, the 17th. They did not respond to any of the comments in that email?
Correct.
Okay. And so that is the point of why we wanted to hold this meeting today, is so that way we can get clarification on why certain things weren't done. So we invited them to this meeting, and they didn't come. Did they say the only reason why they said they didn't want to come is because they didn't want to be in an open meeting? They wanted to talk to us individually?
That was
What they
the,
told me, yes.
okay, yeah, so I got that from the mayor. I think they wanted to meet with the council out at the site, but not with the whole group.
What's okay, Charleston?
So what I've done is because the contract is not, it's not met the conditions, what I did is I called an engineer. And what I've been advised of is two things. One, we should look to hire a structural engineer to make sure it's safe. That's the first thing. Then the second thing would be, in addition to that, have an architectural review of the architect's work to make sure that we've been provided the services we're supposed to have been provided, and make sure that our contract's been upheld, which we know it's not, but that was their two recommendations.
Now, did we not already have a structural engineer come?
No, at one time, if you remember early on, Mackey said he was going to employ a structural engineer. If he's employed one, we have received no information, no reports, and no bill.
Correct. And I was told that we would have the certificate of occupancy, the letter from the architect, the request for payment, one additional document, but I still have yet to receive any of those.
So we have not paid any funds yet.
No, not towards this project.
So you mentioned the certificate of occupancy. Did you get any report on that?
Yes, I finally did get it. It is, it may be in your packet.
Steve Golden.
It's not in the packet. Okay, well, we did receive that late today.
Do you know the date that the certificate of occupancy was issued?
This time I did not. It's on there. I can find that for you and get that back to you. Second, I'm back in my office, but I don't have that with me right now.
Do you know if it was issued prior to June 8th?
What I do know is that Mackey had let me know it was done prior to June 8th.
So you're saying that according to Mackey, the architect, that the certificate of occupancy was issued prior to the completion of the work, and especially prior to addressing any ADA issues?
Yes, that's the big thing, is it seems like, the other issue that I had was, when I had spoke with the, county building inspector, he had expressed to me that he was told no one would be allowed into the interior, that it was locked when they got there, it had a padlock, no one was going inside it, and I informed them that wasn't the case. That no, we intended, I expressed to them, one, there's a wall been built up to it, which I think would have been put in, and again, the thing with that was, we were told after that work had begun, and it wasn't part of the contractual work. So the concrete walk was not something the town, the council, the staff approved, and again, it was started on and done, and then not built to ADA standards. But again, we assumed they built the walk because there were gonna be tiles placed in it for people to view. But the county building inspector didn't.
Was unaware of it.
He was not at that time made aware that people would be inside it.
So he passed it.
Based on what he was told, which apparently was incorrect.
Did the county
He should
board,
have seen you around. I mean, these inspectors should know that was illegal.
did the building inspector mention anything about who the owner of the property was? I heard there was a conflict on that.
I expressed to him that, well builders didn't get to determine who walked in and out of the property, and he said, why not? And I said, well, that's the town's property, not well builders or the owner of well builders. That caused him to make several phone calls. He said he'd get back to me, but that never happened either.
So you're saying that the building inspector was under the assumption that the property was owned by either Rexwell or Lell Builders, and was not under the assumption that it was public property, that it was the town of Hildebran property?
Yes, it appeared that way because he was not under the assumption we could be the ones to determine if that was to be locked or unlocked. So once I explained this to him, he mentioned he would go back, he would get with Rex Lell and Mackie Johnson to review it further. But from what I understand, they're standing by that certificate of occupancy, even now, even with the ADA issues.
So my question is, were they representing that they own the property versus the town owning the property?
I don't know that.
I wish they were here so they could answer these questions. We asked for the certificate of occupancy report, and we were denied that. We were asked various forms of paperwork in association with this, and sometimes multiple times, and were denied this information. We were asked to have the architect and the contractor here so that way we could get questions answered. That could have been done by email, but they chose not to answer those emails, and then they chose not to be here in person. I think that speaks volumes. And it doesn't smell good at all. I think as an elected public official, our greatest loyalty is to the taxpayers of the town. We are, in our oath, we have to be good stewards of taxpayer money. And as a taxpayer, I feel upset at how this process has gone. If this was a home that I had someone contracted to build for me, I wouldn't settle for that for my home. And I don't think as a council person that we should stand for that for the town. So, I mean, there's other issues that we have with this tower other than just the items that you mentioned. And in an email that I sent you, Logan, with my concerns, I kind of broke them down as cosmetic as well as structural. I think the biggest concern that I have is even some of the cosmetic issues are structural. And it goes down to how brittle the mortar is in that entire tower. All the old mortar is extremely brittle. You can touch it with your hands and it just crumbles. Examples of that are on the inside of the archway when you first walk in, there was new paint that was applied. It hasn't been but a few weeks and mortar has already crumbled, so there's paint missing. I mean, either that or they painted over dirt dauber nest and those have just disintegrated, which doesn't make sense, especially with new paint. The nails that are in the mortar are a structural problem because if you pull the nail, then the mortar's going to crumble around it, making the brick around it less stable. And you've already got a stability issue with the whole thing, in my opinion. What I'm concerned about is, like, especially if you look at the back part of the tower, it looks like mortar is the only thing holding it together. And as I just said, that mortar is just crumbling to the touch. So, I mean, the entire back part of that tower could just fall off because there's nothing to brace it. When it was attached to the school, you had a brace with the school. You had a staircase inside. You had various forms to keep that tower stable. But all of that has been removed. There is nothing there that is keeping it sturdy. So I definitely think it's important we have a structural engineer come out and look at this. And like Redmond said previously, we were told that there was something, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they say that there was something that was issued previously about that it was structurally sound, but we couldn't find it, and so we kind of went on that.
I attempted
And
to
he
get
was
that.
supposed to be a structural engineer come out to give us a written report, which we never got, never saw, and never will.
I attempted to track that down 3 times, and first time I got an answer, was told them they would look for it, give it to me. The next 2 times I just didn't get an answer.
Well, and to your point, Cole, the mortar is not even, I mean, as poorly as it's done, it's not even mixed right. So that's part of the reason why you're having the flaking and the coming off. It's not even the mixture of the mortars.
You're talking about the new mortar, right?
The new mortar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, our kids get it. I mean, it's just not, that's not up to standard. So when you mix that mortar, it shouldn't be able to break it off with your fingernail or your hand. So to your point, it's not, there's nothing there that's going to support. It's like you said on the backside of that, the biggest concerning part is you got so much weight on that one side there where they poured that walkway, which was not even close to being done right. If that thing shifts or goes under any certain part of it, that thing that could be a train wreck. Oh, the left-hand side where the brick is, where it's uneven.
Well, there's a lot of issues with the walkway in either case, with the fact there's no handrails there on both sides. It's a steep fall should somebody fall or run off with a wheelchair or whatever. Either way they go. My construction experience is a little dated. My father and grandfather lived their entire life. So when it comes to the most recent up-to-date information, Derek, I'm gonna default to you as far as what all your experience has kind of shown with the scope of this project.
Well, I think the main thing is just the work that's been done. It's just not, I wouldn't, I guess I have higher expectation when it comes to construction than most, but I think the biggest thing is just, I don't even know where to start. I think the issue on the back and how they did the drain, that drain should have been run underneath and piped over to the other drain so it has natural flow. We don't have water standing or issues with drainage in the back. And the other big issue is just looking at that wall. When you see it, you can see it where they poured the sidewalk and where the brick meets. There's no really support up there. And the part that's been burned at the very top, I don't even know if that's ever been checked to see if that's how much damage was done right at that little section right there.
Yeah, and that's
Just
a
secure that,
structural
just,
question on that.
I think it's just, that needs to be looked at. Because the last thing we want to do is sink more money into this, and it's just going to, we might have a situation where it crumbles on us. Or
Well, and you bring up a point with the burn part. Granted, I've only got the viewpoint from the ground. I haven't gotten a scissor lift or any kind of lift bucket truck or anything. But from what I can tell looking at it, and I've taken pictures of it as well, it's hard to tell if the brick is just black from the smoke and there's nothing structurally wrong with it, or if you look at the angle at which it's at, it almost looks like it's kind of crumbled and there's stuff like bricks missing, and it doesn't look stable. But again, I'm looking at it from the distance from the ground. I really think it's
I think
important.
the engineering is huge because if you're going to do more work to it, the problem is you have to make sure that top part's stable to hold whatever you're going to do.
From the top
Makes
all the way
sense.
down.
On top all the way down. Because if you start messing with that and you don't secure that top correctly, then you could be in danger of, they could be doing brick and the whole thing crumble on that one side. Because there's no way you can let anybody go walk through that. And my concern would be with these cruise ins now, if they're going to be closed I guess that's gonna be roped off so nobody would walk in there and get hurt or anything else with that, the railing, not being there this weekend. I'm assuming you're gonna have that roped off to where, you know what I'm saying? Cruise ends this weekend, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So main thing I would be concerned about if I was on the town is making sure nobody can walk up and down that ramp, because, you know, kids gonna go over there or somebody's gonna walk off the side of that thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it needs to have some security there, because if not, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And it could be some, you know, it could be my parents, for God's sake, could walk over there and shove them off to back up.
Well, you mentioned a lawsuit, and this kind of strikes home personally with me because, you know, my parents live in Alabama, and they had a situation in September of last year. There was a fire at a marina, and the marina was originally built by the town of Scottsboro, Alabama. Okay, and there was a fire. It killed 8 people, damaged 35 boats. There was loss of life. It was a really tragic thing. Well, just this week they announced that the council members are being sued, the town attorney's being sued, everybody under the sun is being sued because of the deaths of these people, that they're trying to hold them accountable for it. So I think that's important for the sole reason of going back to this town, or this tower is town property. Anything that happens to it, whether we try to do work to renovate it or anything else that happens, even if we just shut it off and don't let anybody gain access. If, let's say, for instance, the burn part, it's unstable, the top slides right off and lands on grandma. I mean, the town is going to be held liable for that. And with that said, the town manager, the town staff, the council, everybody whose name was associated to that is also going to be held liable for that. So that's not to scare us into inaction. That is to bring reality to the situation that at the end of the day, something needs to be fixed. And I think that's what the council unanimously voted at the end of the day, is that we make a decision to make sure that this property is safe. And I think with everybody's initial viewpoint about the contractual agreement, we can all agree that yes, the contract was not filled. But at the end of the day, I think the best thing that we could do is have a structural engineer look at it, have the architectural review look at it, like Logan mentioned, and then see what those reports say and take the next step there. Because I just don't feel that we should spend another penny unless we know that it's you know, for good cause. Because at this point, I'm struggling to find out where $50,000 that was privately and publicly raised to pay for this has been properly spent. I know we put a roof on it, and I know that's not cheap, and I know some demolition was done, but I'm struggling to find where 50 grand was spent. Now, that $50,000 was quoted, Logan, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was quoted as an estimate by the architect. Am I right? Or was that by a different engineer?
So the way that we looked at it was the town had set aside the year before I got here, $50,000 for the tower to be fixed. How that number came about, I don't know, because again, it came before I got here. However, when we did bid it out, we had 2 bids. We had one at 41, I think it was 41.5 actually, and then a second one at 68. Though now the architect can come up with numbers he believes to be accurate, but again, until you actually get the bids in, it's going to be hard to determine the exact amount.
And why was the sidewalk done? Did they give you a reason for that since they didn't get it approved?
No, and that's one of the things about it is I got an email at 6:07 after working hours stating that form work had already started for a new concrete wall. It would be a courtesy change order on behalf of Well Builders and Mackey for Hybrid Architecture at no cost to the town. And then the next morning it would be filled before I got it. That was all done before it could be stopped. It had already gotten to that point. So the biggest concern is, one, the town never approved that. The contract didn't address it. And then after it was finished, it wasn't done to ADA standards. And then the other concerning part is that it was passed by the building inspectors.
I guess my concern goes back to the money, because it all goes down to money, right? So we had 2 bids. One just happened to hit the magic number sweet spot where we originally had been quoted and was looking to do. The other one was $27,000 more, which is a significant increase. My concern goes back to the concern I had in the very beginning about a conflict of interest in the ethical situation about who the contract was initially awarded to. Even though, yes, I did vote for Lowe Builders to take the contract, but my concern is the person in charge of the organization that sued the town for open meeting laws did not want this meeting to happen in open, knew insider information on what our quote was, on what the estimate was, and just happened to bid the magic number, then says the work is done before the scheduled date was complete, still continued to do work, still tried to do free work, but still didn't fill the obligations of the contract. So was the initial plan to not fulfill the contract and hope to get more money to continue a contract they initially had? The whole thing stinks. And the fact that the architect and the contractor are not here does not need to be lost. They intentionally were not here to answer for this, and this is shady. And I don't think another penny or another second needs to be wasted on continuing anything with that project until we have an architectural review and a structural engineer to come check on the validity and the safety of that project going forward.
I agree. I mean, I think you gotta have some checks and balances on this, and it looks like there wasn't a lot of checks on it. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of poor work, but it's been a long time. So, I think you definitely will have to get some better eyes on it, let them see it. But like Cole said, we're in charge of making sure the town spends the right kind of money for the right funds, and this has not been spent well.
Well, not only that, half of the money's. Well, they've raised the other half of it. They got an interest in this too, it's their money, the money being spent. The job wasn't done, what the
Well,
contract.
it's not just their money, it's money they raised from the public.
Well, I'm saying that they raised the money, and the town puts up half of it. They're not getting what they're raised money to get done.
And I can't believe, and in all my years of seeing this, it's been about 30 years, somebody that would be happy with that work. I mean, especially when you're representing a town that means so much to all of us, right? We all love this place. And coming here, I thought that thing was gonna shine like a new penny, or it was gonna be like this.
Be respectful anyway.
Right. And so I think at the end of the day, everybody in this room loves the town of Hildebran. There's no doubt about that. There's enough passion in this room. We could build 10 of them, Hildebrans. But we gotta make sure everybody else is on board like we are in this room. And I don't think that's been the case. That makes sense. So I wouldn't spend another penny. I would remove their sign and not have them out here until we can figure this out. Because I think it's a liability for this weekend, so we need to figure out how you can rope that off and secure that walkway.
Whose responsibility is that?
I don't know. That's a good question.
It'll be the town, we'll work it out.
Yeah. Maybe calling it however, but I just, I'm just shocked at it. I mean, it's not even good.
Logan, do you have any leads on a structural engineer that could maybe be able to take a look at this?
I would start with McGill Associates, go from there. They
specialize in municipal work.
Yeah.
I've done this for a long time.
I
They do good
would
work.
recommend starting there, seeing what they have to say.
And they're already familiar with that site as well, are they not?
They're close. They're like a couple miles from here in one bar. Yeah.
I think you gotta do several things. I think first thing you gotta do, you gotta secure the building between there and Saturday. So it's impenetrable. So nobody can go in or anything like that. I think you see a cease and desist letter to the architect and the contractor. No more work until we get questions answered. Can't go back on site, not gonna be paid. Something's not right. I checked with the county, Steve Holder. I wanna find out who told him that we didn't own that property. It was somebody else's property. I want him to come out and look at the property. I want to know why the hell he issued a CO on that piece of property the way it is. I want the structural engineer. I want our insurance company who issues liability insurance to come out and look at that building and see if they're gonna cover us if somebody gets hurt, throw right around that building. That building's dangerous and it really, in a poor way. I think it's ridiculous. And then, only then, do we make a decision, what's the future of the building?
What you need to-
Can I put everything you just said into a
How
motion?
can we keep up?
What is it?
Seriously, can I put everything he just said into a motion?
Alice, did you get all that?
I tried.
A
I
stop.
tried really fast.
I
We're gonna go a little
think
slower
that's
next
the
time,
safest
okay?
thing.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Redmond, maybe kind of give it just another brief layout for Alice, just to kind of.
For Alice, number one, secure the building, so no one can go in the building immediately or as quickly as possible. Number two, contact our insurance company and have somebody come out.
Number 2 is do a seize letter.
Do a cease and desist letter. That goes out immediately. No, not back on the property, no further work, not gonna be paid. We want to find out what went wrong, what's going on. Contact the county, have them come out and explain how a CO was issued at this property. And was the CO issued to the town or was it issued to Lale Builders, who's not even the owner? How did that possibly happen? Have our insurance company come out, who is the lead, and look at that property and make sure we have liability coverage that will in fact cover the town in the condition that building presently is. And then get a structural engineer and last and not least an architectural review of the plans and make sure that property is safe and secure because we know it does not meet what we anticipated the contract to say. And then we further make a decision on what can be done to, if anything, to preserve the property.
You had a question, I think.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Is it possible, I mean, and I'm not in defense of anybody, I think it should be done right. I've been a contractor for years. I'm retired, but I was. But was the C of O issued with the original drawings that didn't show the ramp?
There are no drawings that ever showed the ramp.
All right, that's if they got a C of O, the ramp wasn't even on the drawings. That's how you got a C of O. If the ramp was on the original drawings, then he would have failed him and wouldn't have given him a C of O.
You reckon that was by design?
Logan just said it was an
I don't know, but
afterthought,
well, you know what I'm saying though?
I see what you're saying.
The building
I understand what's
inspector,
going on. I understand very well what's going
the
on.
building inspector could have issued the C of O on the original drawings because the original drawings didn't show that ramp.
Don't you think it's unusual that there's no copy of the CO?
I know that,
Well,
you're supposed to get a copy of
Right.
that.
The owner is, but if the owner was, if the building inspector was told the owner was Lale Builders, maybe that's why they didn't want to come see us.
I just don't understand how
I think there's
you
more to
need
the
to get a
question
copy.
about.
I mean, that just blows my
Oh, you
mind.
always lie and get one.
I think the short answer to your question is Logan just wrote it down here. At that 6:07 timeframe that he had gotten a change order on that particular day. And that's why he was kind of snuck in there.
What
But
change
you
will
should have a
happen?
copy of it.
Well,
What
We
change
think,
will?
we,
We
the,
think.
the county will have a copy of it.
Yeah.
I think the concern is what day it was given the fact that the work is.
And there was
Well,
more
what
issues
changed
than
it?
just the sidewalk in regards to the
Just in my-
city. That is
just in my
just
defense.
one.
No,
Every
Yes.
time I ever got a C of O, I actually went and bought a frame and I handed it to the owner in a frame. Here's your C of O.
In every state.
Every job I've ever
Every
done,
state.
and I've worked from here to Hawaii and back. Every CO I ever was granted, I put it in a frame and I handed it to the owner.
It belongs to
Shiny
them,
new
not
key.
us, you know.
no,
Every
it's just
time.
more emails. I'll get more emails on those things out there.
But how can we keep up, Jade,
Well,
on
and the
what's
other-
going on?
The
We
other
have an
part of the
interest
C
as
of
well.
O, and the reason why the date was called into question is on that Tuesday, June the 8th, when I went out, I was already told the C of O was already issued. At that point, one of the structural concerns I had with the building was over top of the windows on several places, the mortar was cracking, the bricks were falling, and there was nothing to reinforce that. But that was after I was told the C of O was already issued. A week later, we went out, those windows had been reinforced. So how was the C of O already issued if there were major structural issues that could cause damage? And so the sidewalk is only one piece of the question. There are other structural issues.
Yeah, I understand.
Plaster coming off,
Yeah.
you know, there's a hole in the ceiling when you first walk in and look up, there's a hole in the ceiling. You know, that was never addressed. There's tons of other issues.
Yeah, he
That
didn't
is
just worry
just
about
one piece.
sidewalk.
And the other part of the sidewalk that is the problem is the fact that it's an unapproved item from the get-go. We even discussed the possibility of it before we awarded the contract, and the council voted not to do the sidewalk, and it was still done. So that is a public property. Just if I was building a house and the contractor decided on their own they were gonna pay a change to my house, I would approve of that, that would be a problem, and then much less put their name in it. That's a whole other thing.
But don't you think that would have been something that would have been arise later on, access to the handicap?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't necessary if it was done appropriately and went through the proper channels, but again, it's taxpayer property and the council voted not to do it at that time as a later part of the project and maybe as part of the grander park project that we were going to do. But that, they made that change themselves, and again, we have all kinds of problems with that.
So the low builders, anybody ask them if they were happy with that work? Anybody ask them?
They put
Like
their
when they
name on it,
finished-
surely they were happy.
I mean, that's my question. I would ask them, say, well, are you happy with it? I mean, they don't need to meet with us individually, but, to sit there and go, are you happy with this?
Would you want this at your house?
Right. And
There's
if they
one
cannot
more.
answer that honestly, then yeah, come here and tell us that. But to me, are you happy with that kind of work?
You're a licensed contractor, or a licensed contractor.
Yes,
You
sir.
work all over the world.
Yes, sir.
Do you ever make unilateral changes without the owner's permission, consent, or knowledge?
No,
Have you ever seen anybody who was a legitimate licensed contractor do that?
You can't.
I've
You're
gone
legitimate.
above and beyond sometimes, but it wasn't like you're saying. I mean, I didn't build a handicap ramp, but I have went above and beyond the drawings to make,
On your own, without any knowledge,
Yes.
consent of anybody?
yes. And it was, but it
You realize
wasn't,
the risk you assume doing that?
well, it wasn't structural, is what I'm saying either. It was cosmetic.
Well, and the other thing is, as a monument, I don't know that you can do any new construction to get that certificate of occupancy, and so the ramp being put in there might be considered new construction, which could avoid that.
And does that not interfere with the grant if you clean it up too good?
No, the tower, the biggest issue with the tower is we would want to make sure it's safe.
But if
For the
you
grant
make it too safe, then you could never.
You raised an interesting
The
question.
grant had nothing to do with the tower. The grant has to do with all of the property around the tower.
The
I
tower,
understand
the
that.
tower hurts us on the grant.
But is that,
The whole point of doing the renovation on the grant was to show community buy-in that we are going to do something to renovate the site anyway, and to hopefully help the.
but was it ever intended for that to have a certificate, a historical landmark?
No, it was worded as it would be a tower monument, but no historical, because you're right, if you get a historical status on it,
You can only go so far.
That's right.
but no, that was not the intention. The intention was to let people in it as any other.
And make it some kind of use of something.
Right.
Right.
And that's another thing we need to add to the motion,
Walk under.
is we need to have party folks come and look at the tower as it is now stands and see whether or not that will cause a detriment to us getting the grant. That may stop the whole process of redevelopment of this area.
The only thing that I've gotten from Part F on it is that they mentioned in an email, someone who spoke with Judy Francis, that certain structures will enhance a property for its historical nature. Other times it could be a severe detriment, and that would be something they look at. However, in terms of the occupancy, they would follow the county.
Hey, Wendell, we discussed this for a better part of an hour. I want to call the question to close this debate and go ahead and vote on the motion that's been put on the floor.
All right. Do we need to vote on that, calling the question?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of calling the question? All right, thank you. All right. Now, so no one make a motion.
Well, the motion's on the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Incorporate everything we talked about, what Alice has.
And that was made by you,
Okay,
right?
all right. So I will call, does that need to be repeated?
We need to have a second in this motion, I think.
Wait a second.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor? All right, thank you. Does Alice need to reread the motion?
Oh, gosh.
Or does Brendan need to restate the motion?
I think it's been stated twice.
Okay,
Good, right?
okay.
I'll get it. It's on the recording twice. I'll
Okay.
get it 100%.
All right. So we voted on calling the calling into question. Now you want to vote on the motion. Correct?
I thought we just voted.
We just
We
voted,
We just voted the motion.
Okay,
we just voted on the motion. We got that.
all right.
So I guess we can move to adjournment.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Dan, you are the man. You are the man.
All in favor?
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you.
Right.